call the regular meeting of the Wappinger Town Board to order. With that, may the clerk please call the roll.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. In just a moment, I'll ask you in joining us to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, followed by an invocation by Bishop Giraldo of St. Mary's in the village of Wappingers Falls. That will be followed by a moment of silent meditation. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us recall that we are in the presence of God. God, our Heavenly Father, mindful that we celebrated the independence of our nation only a few days ago, we offer heartfelt thanks for the gifts of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We acknowledge that these gifts come with responsibilities. Give us what is necessary to be good and worthy citizens of our great nation, especially wisdom to seek the common good, generosity of self, and compassion toward those we are privileged to serve. May we never forget to honor the service, past and present, of those who bravely protect our freedoms. We pray for peace throughout the world. May wars, conflicts, and divisions cease. Father, bless those who serve us on this town board and guide their deliberations and decisions according to your divine will. Bless this little corner of your vineyard that we may live here in peace with one another. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Bishop Colicchio. My parish represented here this evening. Thank you, Supervisor, for inviting the bishop, who's very busy and was able to be here this evening. Thank you. Each meeting we try to have a different denomination present, and it means a lot that you were able to be here, Bishop. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, folks, may we move on to the first item on the agenda, and that is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of the June 24th, 2024 Town Board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilwoman Bettina. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a public hearing before us this evening on local law number 2, which is in regards to resolution introducing local law number 2 of 2024, which would amend Chapter 217 zoning of the town code with a respect to a variety of definitions. This was something that we had discussed at the last town board meeting in regards to a number of the zoning code definitions. With that, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The floor is now open to anyone wishing to speak on local law number 2. Again, we ask that you come up, state your name and address for the record. You have about 3 minutes.
Marcy Wagman, Old Troy Road. First, thank you for taking action in what I can see, given tonight's agenda, is a step in addressing the inconsistencies in the town code and helping to enforce the imperative that the town planning and zoning boards consider the statement, principle, and guidelines in Greenway Connections in Land Use and Guides, which is covered in chapters 217 and 240 of the Town Code. And unfortunately, we have seen some previous actions which have been in conflict with this longstanding code. It is my desire to see the updates and clarifications to the Town Code which reinforce adherence to the Greenway Connections guide the actions of the Town Board and the Building Department. So I support local law number 2, and thank you for your work in bringing that forward. And this is perhaps just for my education and maybe others, but the definitions of the sections are found throughout Town Code. So I was confused in trying to understand the differences between Chapter 217, subdivision, and Chapter 240, zoning. And I don't need a long legal discussion here tonight. But those two sections seem very entwined, and I'm not sure why they are so distinct, and maybe it's a state law, I don't know. But I'm trusting that those definitions and the codes are consistent between the two sections, and of course with the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
So I'm just assuming that that's all. But for those of us who are supposed to be living by the Town Code and using it to guide our actions, understanding it is a first step. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, it was a little confusing there.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wagman. And to note on that, we have another local law that's being laid on the desks here tonight for the first time, local law number 3, and that addresses some of the other definitions later on in the code as well. So these are two trains running on very parallel tracks right now that will address both sections of that code as well.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for the public hearing on local law number 2?
So I just have some comments with respect to the definitions. So these definitions are going to set the standard moving forward, correct? Because I could see where Ms. Wagman would say there are some inconsistencies, because there are, right? So I think this is the starting point to clarify any question with respect to interpretation, right? I also want to ensure that these definitions are consistent with the New York State Uniform Code, right? Which I don't have the ability to reference my own, but our building department, our zoning personnel need to ensure that our code is consistent with the latest version of the Uniform Code for code enforcement purposes, the state statutes. The section here we got to be cognizant of here in the town of Wappinger is the massage section.
Yes.
And this is not intended to be a joke, and it's not intended to be tongue-in-cheek, but it's a broad definition here, and there are, I would argue, more massage, quote-unquote, locations per capita on the Route 9 corridor in the town of Wappinger than anywhere else. I think there's 7.
Correct.
Well, there were 7.
Well, we shut down 4.
Yeah. So 4 of them have been closed for, my understanding, authorities that we have control over, right?
Correct.
If it were up to me, we'd close all of the ones that have newspaper on their windows because something ain't right. But we don't have the ability to enforce the general municipal law, and there are statutes that speak to that. So there's ways to look at this, but when you read these definitions, they're very specific with respect to spa, massage, and you can read the... you can
Right down to what is a massage, what parts of the human body can be massaged.
And we'll leave that right there, because that is defined within these definitions. So my point in bringing this up is for the folks out there that have approached us about some of these locations, and most recently there was one that's been shut down since then that had an actual stabbing occur in it. We are aware of that, and the town is using the tools that we have access to enforce our jurisdictional authorities. And for the jurisdiction we don't necessarily have, we're looking at other avenues to ensure that we don't have anything operating that's inconsistent with our code. I think that's the fairest way to put it. So that said, I think this, as Ms. Wagman said, this is a good starting point. This is basically, the way I interpret this, is a line in the sand, right? Moving forward, these are the definitions. I think we have some homework to do as we continue to move on with our comprehensive plan review to ensure that the comprehensive plan, which is circa 2010, is brought up to 2024 and consistent with the definitions that appear in this legislation. So thank you for taking the initiative on this, and I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilman. And to piggyback off of what Councilman Phillips had said at the last town board meeting, which was very impactful, this is, again, why we have a moratorium in place, for us to actively be updating and looking at our code, the comprehensive plan, making sure that we are doing what's best for the people of the town of Wappinger. So, is there any other discussion on local law number 2? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Hang on one second. I don't think we can close the public hearing on this because we're waiting for 2 pieces of information.
Yes.
One from the County Department of Planning and also one from our planning department. So I think we need to keep this one open at this point in time.
There is nothing that requires us to keep it open from our own respective department or planning board. And we were in contact today with Dutchess County Planning, and they have not given us their comments just yet. Either way, we have the 30 days, so you're correct, Councilman. We can keep this public hearing open till August.
Yeah, I suggest we do, and I think what's going to happen is that we'll have a more robust from the county when they look at local law number 3, because they'll be tied together.
Exactly.
And the comments may just be, it's a matter of local concern, but at least they've kind of looked at a more full picture. Because just looking at the definitions in the subdivision section alone, I don't think is really enough for their comprehensive review. But certainly by the August date, we'll have their comments on number 2, likely their comments on number 3.
Yes.
And then
Because we'll have over 30 days between now and the next town board meeting.
yeah, exactly. So,
No, good catch, Councilman. Thank you for that. And again, by the way,
Thanks, Mike.
background on this, folks. While we do these different local law updates, we do send them up to Dutchess County Planning and Development, so they also review the legislation that we present as well. So we are awaiting their comments. They have not given it to us for local law number 2 yet, but there is a shot clock in a sense of 30 days that they have to respond to this, and the next town board meeting is over 30 days from now. So either way, we will have action on this, and I am greatly anticipating their comments as well.
The only other definition that I didn't see in here, which we may want to consider, is tiny home. We don't have that defined in our code.
You're talking about local law number 3 now?
I'm talking about the definitions.
Yeah.
Because we have mobile home, we have trailer home, and there had been discussion in years past about tiny homes, and I don't think that our code speaks to tiny homes. It might be something we want to include a definition on.
Okay.
If there is an actual definition, I think it's based on square footage or something like that, but there was a trend a number of years ago to entertain those options. We just don't have it defined, that's all.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We can definitely look into tiny homes, and again, as we've referenced on this board, best planning practices, what are the trends, especially since we're looking to limit the amount of multifamily here. If we were to look at other scenarios, that'd be a good one to add. I see the town clerk has a comment.
Well, just to let you know that any changes will be made, have to be on your desk 10 days before you adopt it, so it'll be on your desk 10 days before. So we'll add, you'll add tiny homes.
Yes.
And
We'll get the best
make sure you have a copy.
state practices and definitions on tiny homes for the review.
Yeah, I'm not saying I necessarily endorse the approach, but I think if we don't have it defined, if there is a definition, I think that's where,
Yes.
there had been a trend years ago where people were looking to put tiny homes on their properties based on the number of acres. You may remember this, as an outbuilding for aging parents or something like that. Remember we talked about this years ago? And, we don't speak to anything like that. I'm not saying that it's a good idea.
No. But Walmart and Amazon, you can now buy one of these pop-up tiny homes, and they can be delivered to your home.
Don't tell my wife that.
Yeah.
I'll be in it. I'll be residing in it.
Yeah.
But that said, there's certain acreage, zoning, provisions you probably want to look at, right?
Exactly.
A tiny home on a half acre ain't going to work.
No, not in Indian Village, no.
So just a thought, if we're doing this, we may want to look at that since, there's a lot of that on TV.
Absolutely, and on Amazon now. All right.
That used to be available in a Sears catalog, so it's
Yes.
not. Amazon selling a tiny home is not a new thing. It's maybe new to certain people, but Sears homes have been around for
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they have, yes.
75 years at least.
Much bigger, though.
Yeah.
So, council, do we need to have any sort of motion or anything to keep the public hearing open? Or
No, you could just leave it open and
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
For the minute track purposes.
Just want to make sure that we're saying the right thing.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I'll move to adjourn this public hearing.
I'll
Second.
second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The public hearing is adjourned to our next meeting in August. August 19th. Thank you, Clerk. With that, do I have a motion to open the public portion of our
I'll
meeting?
move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much, folks. Anyone wishing to speak on agenda items only, you have 3 minutes, and we ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Grace Martin, 52 Fieldstone Boulevard. I want to talk about the non-consented resolution 2024-155 about awarding a contract for Major Daniel Martz Vietnam War Memorial at Martz Park. First of all, I want to thank the board for your support of our vets. You've done many things in this town. You've done the 5K. And like I said, you're at every Memorial Day, you do Veterans Day. So again, I thank you for doing that. And I think this falls right in line with that. I want to reference something, and Jessica knows I have a wonderful memory. It's good, Jessica. Honestly. During COVID, the 2020 Memorial Day event couldn't be held. So Jessica did a wonderful job doing a virtual event. One of those speakers happened to be our former Assemblyman, Karen Laylor. And he chose to do his virtual at Martz Field. And he explained why Martz was so important at that particular point in time as a vet. And he would just said something, and I'll paraphrase, he always just told Mom, we're going to Martz. Everybody went to Martz. Okay. Now this board, again, I believe you're building a very good legacy. I'm asking you to continue that legacy. I'm in this town 40 years. I think this is the first time in my 40 years here that a board has actively taken a role in our recreation. You've worked on Challenger Field. You're working on Spook Hill. Hopefully that they'll work on Castle Point. I mean, you have worked at Carnworth Farms, where I just recently visited the little pop-up library. So you're forming a wonderful legacy. I recognize as a taxpayer, it costs money. But that part of that legacy is also Martz Park. You've basically did a lot of work at Martz. You've improved the children's activities there. You've improved the senior activities, pickleball, Bill. And the park is supposed to be for Major Martz. This board over the years has heard plans to work on this very important thing. And I think, shy of keeping it nice and politically correct, the veterans of Vietnam have not been recognized in that park. I recognize that your Buildings and Grounds Department over the years has had 100 to 110 projects that don't get done. So, as a taxpayer, I have to look at both sides of the equation. Personally, I think $30,000 over the 40 years that that park hasn't been worked on is ROI'd for the next 40 years. You'll continue the legacy because I honestly believe these parks will not be worked on again for 40 years. So it's a park that you've, again, can make it a destination for the seniors. You run your summer camps there. Please finish it in honor of this man who the park is named for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. Thank you.
So just a quick comment to Ms. Martin's comment. So as you know, we've been planning on doing the pavers and everything else over at Martsfield for a number of years now. We had set aside $20,000 in the Parkland Trust money. As you're fully aware, that has not happened. So now we believe we have a contract tonight we're going to approve for $30,000, and they're going to get it complete. They have that reputation, and we're going to make it happen again. This is something we've been looking to do for quite some time now, and now it's going to happen. So thank you for your support. We do appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you. And to piggyback off of what both Grace Martin had mentioned and Councilman Casella, not only is this upgrading this monument, but it is giving it a new featured entry to that park, a new focal point to that park. When you enter Martsfield now, you'll be entering into an entry plaza with the monument front and center, beautifully illuminated and landscaped for all to see, and not at the far end of a parking lot. So I, again, in advance, thank my colleagues on the town board for their support as well in this, and thank you again for your comments. Any other comments under the public portion on agenda items only? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
Make a motion.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Public portion is now closed. Folks, we have two discussion items in front of us this evening. The first one is a Town of Wappinger financial update. And it's something that we have been looking at since we took office to get to this point. When we took office, we knew that there were a number of things that we had to clean up, a number of things that we had to get to. And I have to say, thanks to our amazing comptroller and her team and working together, we have gotten there. We have undertaken significant projects, and I'm very excited to see Comptroller Servideo report.
Just a few bets.
And Al Casella's bats just fell. There you go.
Okay.
All right.
That's something you don't see every day.
No.
So these are actually out on the display. They
Yes.
put them up here by the desk here, and of course, they put them set up right so they can...
Was that Ty Cobb's bat that just fell down?
Yeah, it's broken half now, man.
Yeah, the councilman does not normally walk around with a bag of bats. Madam Comptroller, the floor is yours.
That was the introduction, so you're all set.
Forget what I just said. There you go.
So I will apologize in advance that this is obviously, we are into second half of the year. I did not feel comfortable standing up here in front of you until I had legitimate numbers in front of me. When I walked into that office, we needed to do a full analysis first to see where we even stood, and there was no possible way I felt confident giving you any number that came across my desk at that point. We were diving in and uncovering things daily, and I'll go through what we've uncovered and how we've attempted to fix it, and then we'll move forward from there. But this was the first time I can confidently give you numbers, and I do feel confident saying them to you. Up until now, that was not an option. So I could have gladly given you a presentation, but I'm not sure the numbers would have stayed the same. Okay, so a little bit of what we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to go over the initial analysis that was done when we came into the office, the major findings that we had, how we have given some solutions to them. I can give you a brief update on the 2023 audit as of where we are right now. It is not complete, but we are fairly there. And then we will talk about where we are for the 2024 financial position as of right now. Okay. So when we first came into the office, one major thing that came across my desk probably within the first few weeks is we had vendors looking for money. They wanted to be paid. We had one vendor who sent me an accounts receivable that was about 19 pages long. We owed way over $500,000 to vendors in payables. There's no way I could have given any type of fund balance to you knowing we had outstanding invoices dating back to 2021. That was one major thing. Outsourced payroll was another thing that came up on the regular. There's errors on payroll. We were submitting retirement reports with errors. That's people's pensions that we're talking about. Those are big issues that need to be addressed immediately. We had a pending arbitration with one of our unions. In a collective bargaining agreement, they were told they would go back to weekly payroll after a trial period, so we were being told we need to get on weekly as soon as possible. We looked over the software that we currently had, if it was even appropriate for a town our size. It was not very user-friendly. I was surprised to see there, other than my office, there might have been 2 other people who had access to that software. No one else in your town did at all. And there was obviously some major pitfalls with it. And then we did run a type of cost analysis on the new payroll software to make sure it was going to be effective for us to swap over. Okay, so obviously the first major thing was we needed to switch to weekly payroll. In order to do that, we were going to attempt to process it in-house. We also needed to work on the amount of costs associated with your payroll. The time clock alone is $450 a month just to rent the time clock there. You pay a processing fee for every payroll that they process. So if we went from bi-weekly to weekly, we're doubling the charges right there. Every report that's filed by Paychex, you pay for. So every quarterly report, you have a New York State 45, an MTA tax, a 941, and a monthly retirement report that you're charged for each individual one of those reports that can absolutely be done in-house. The New York State reports for state tax and MTA tax were filed incorrectly, so then they had to file amended reports as well, which were additional costs to us and additional payments that we had to make to New York State. Pre-tax and post-tax deductions were set up incorrectly in Paychex, so our employees weren't always receiving the benefits of some of their health insurance plans or some of their additional insurances that they had. You know, that's part of the benefit of that they're paying towards the pre-tax. They were not set up and they were not receiving those benefits. Retirement contributions were incorrect. So now people were under-contributing to their pensions. Retirement will come back and say you owe us that money and you owe interest on it now. And we have no control over that. They have to pay that in order to get that time towards their pensions. We actually had a past employee reach out about maybe 10 days ago who'd said, I have proof in my paycheck here you took money from me and it was never sent to New York State Retirement. Luckily, we had already performed an audit on this and we knew the dollar amount that we owed her, and Taryn was able to send in a corrected retirement report, but there is, and it's on your audit saying that there's outstanding items on your bank reconciliations, but there's a block on your payroll bank rec where it says outstanding retirement. Those are our employees' funds in our payroll account that we owe to them, or that we owe to New York State Retirement on their behalf. So we also had to dig into that and see where the money belonged to. Every employee here was shorted 10 days of service for last year. Taryn was able to discover that as we dove deeper into things every day. We had to file amended reports for everyone so they could get all their time. Again, 10 days when it comes towards your retirement, that means a lot. It's a big deal there. And last but not least, the W-2s had been coded incorrectly for a few years. So we had multiple employees that came in at the beginning of the year to me who were receiving notices from New York State. They owed past taxes with interest and penalties on them because their taxes were filed incorrectly because of the way we coded their W-2s. So, biggest thing we had to do right away is get rid of Paychex, and we brought in the new in-house payroll system. This was built from bottom up by my office. Every individual deduction, every pay code, every overtime policy was built in-house with a programmer from the actual company. All deductions were checked each payroll. We ran parallel to check and make sure post-tax was correct, pre-tax was correct, that each employee's retirement deduction was set correctly. The biggest thing with this is we've eliminated all the costs associated with the payroll. We can file every single one of those reports on our own. We can pay all of our own taxes. We've built the new W-2 form, so it's all coded correctly. We checked with our auditors and with other municipalities as well to make sure it's built correctly so no one will have the tax issues. We've run the full audit on the retirement funds. Taryn has it broken down. We'll be paying that money out to the employees who we owe, and she's also filed countless corrections reports. They're not very fond of us up there at New York State right now, but tons of correction reports so that people have their correct time, their correct contributions, and funds towards their pensions. And last but not least, we'll have ExecuTime. So that will be our new clock-in system. We will not only have the actual time clocks in each of the facilities, highway, buildings and grounds, and here, but it's going to give remote access for our summer team. So it has geocache capability, so they will have to be in a certain location in order to clock in, but it's going to eliminate timesheets, it's going to eliminate data entry and all that room for human error that we could have previously had. We've also moved all of our seasonal part-time rec staff, planning board, zoning board members, we've switched them over to a 1099 vendor payout versus payroll. So we're saving on workers' comp, social security, and all payroll taxes that we would pay on those people who should not be on our full payroll, obviously. All accruals, longevity, and salaries are table-driven now. When we were going through the audit, there were people who missed a week of vacation, there were people who missed a step increase, there were people who were on the wrong salaries. This, when that date hits in the system, it'll automatically generate for us and it'll pulled into the next payroll. So they'll automatically get their new vacation, their longevity will bump up automatically. It's on the backside, table driven. So after we got through payroll, we shifted focus now a little bit more towards the books. Biggest thing that popped up right away was our procurement policy. The procurement policy states anything over $1,000, a voucher or PO signed by the supervisor is sufficient. We have no official purchase order here. It's just a voucher. So that's the same voucher that you would use to pay for an item. And there's just an Excel spreadsheet that had numbers in it that were open POs. So as we were searching through things and looking things over, a vendor in 2023 was paid over $20,000 twice because the voucher was mistaken as a PO. The voucher came across the desk and they paid it, and then it came across again as a PO to be closed and they paid it again. Luckily, we were able to reach out to the vendor, we were refunded our money, but without an actual form or an actual formal process of having these expenses approved, these are typical mistakes that could absolutely happen. The outstanding accounts payable we briefly discussed, but as we went a little bit deeper, to just 3 vendors alone, we owed over $360,000. A lot of them were escrow bills, but a lot of them were town bills as well. It took multiple phone calls. Bills had to be adjusted, bills had to be written off. I can say as of right now, we have no outstanding bills with any of those vendors. We are due a credit from the one vendor that we're just waiting on the check from. Our cash handling procedure is something that came up on the audit, and it's something that I recognized right away. Individual departments took care of their own cash. They took their own cash and checks in, they deposited their own money, and then the finance office would reconcile with the bank statement. But obviously a bank statement is delayed. So now we're not coming across any discrepancies until 30 days later, whatever it may be.
So just a point of clarification, when you said 360,000, that's also a combination of escrows too, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep,
She
that's
did
both.
note that,
Yep,
yes.
yep, absolutely. So the discrepancies take a little bit longer to find. Now, again, it goes back to the bank recs on the audit that you're written up for. These are just became reconciling items on their bank reconciliations. Oh, $50 off here, $25 off here. Granted, it's simple things. Sometimes the Municity software doesn't speak with the other software in real time, so they put a void in, it didn't pull through on that day's data. But when you're 30 days behind now, it's much more difficult to look that up rather than if we had the money and the report on the same day in the finance office to cross-check it right there. There is no real-time financials in Edmonds. In order to get an actual fund balance, each individual fund, that means every highway, every lighting, every sewer, every water has to be individually closed out with all closing entries done in order to get your actual fund balance number. When we started preparing for 2023, all the numbers seemed off, and that's because I realized 2022 had never been closed. So we never could have even had a fund balance from 22 because the numbers couldn't have been accurate. It wasn't closed, nothing rolled up to that actual fund balance. The capital projects, and you have many of those, were set up as perpetual accounts. So a capital project it doesn't have any budget. It's big expense you're going to do, but essentially the debt will be carried over to the fund where it's correlated with. So if it's a sewer project, it's ultimately going to go back to one of your sewer funds, so on and so forth. As a perpetual account, it never closed out. It just would continuously roll over. With that, we can't see how much is spent. We can't see if we've gone over the budgeted amount. You can't tell if we're past the bond amount that was in there. So those need to be set up on a fiscal basis. GASB 84 was implemented in 2019. It was the elimination of all trust and agency accounts. The town of Wappinger is still utilizing trust and agency accounts in 2023. We will no longer be using them in 2024, but that's another thing that's going to come up on the audit that's been on your audits. And this is where the escrows come into effect. So each individual escrow is in a trust and agency account that needs to be eliminated. And all of that activity needs to run through your B fund. The problem is those escrow accounts and invoices weren't coded correctly, and all of them were charged to this generic trust and agency account, leaving about $1 million liability on the books. So if the auditors were to come in and just move all that activity into the B fund, we're taking $1 million out of B fund rather than allocating it to the appropriate accounts and using the escrow funds for them. So luckily, I have an incredible team, and we worked and we dug through. We made it back to about 2017 so far to allocate all those expenses out to each individual escrow account where they belong. Obviously, this put many of those escrow accounts in the red, and that will be our next project to start requesting funds, making sure all accounts are flush again, but at least it takes the liability off of the town's books and puts it more onto the actual individual applicants. And the very last thing, it was not that big of a deal, but the 2024 budget was never even inputted into the system, and that does take time because it was built on a spreadsheet. So the data entry of putting that back into the system, it just leaves a lot of room for human error, and it just takes very tedious time. So some of our solutions that we decided to put in. We have now, with the new financial software, we are live this week, again, built bottom up, an actual purchase order process. So the department heads will all have access to this new software. They can go in and they will be able to put the request in for their item. They'll have the budget line. We are moving towards a paperless environment, so they'll have the capability to scan in their quotes and everything, so it's right in there. You'll see when we discuss the audit, the auditors have many findings on our procurement and purchasing issues, so all that will be in one area for them. I will have the capabilities, the controller, to go in and approve the purchase order, which generates an actual form completely different than our voucher form, which then goes to the supervisor's desk to have a manual signature. Once that's given, it'll go back to the department heads. They can supply it to the vendor if that's what they're looking for, the physical form. When the goods are received, we have the capability in our system to just go in, received goods. It will give us a spot for an invoice number, and it automatically generates the payment into our accounts payable set for that payment process. So again, it cannot be doubled up. It's a one-time thing. It's already in there and set, invoice line and everything. The next thing is we have the capability now for recurring payables. So anybody who's on a monthly billing cycle, a lot of our contractors, it's the same thing every single month. We can set them up as one thing at the beginning of the month. All those bills will be generated. We just have to put a new invoice number in. So there's no data entry entering in the vendor, the line, all that. It'll be one simple process, which makes us much more efficient. We have now collected all the money back into the finance office. So building, recreation, all the funds are coming to our office with their reports, and we have the separation of duties. So they collect it, we deposit, someone else reconciles, we have the separation of duties, and we can catch things in real time. When we're off by $50, it's a quick fix. We know right away what it is rather than trying to search down the line, losing it in translation somewhere. We also have a new cashiering module with the new system. So in Edmonds currently, when the cash comes in, they would write a manual journal entry for it. So they would write the cash line, they would hit the revenue line. There's a lot of room for human error there. Some of our things that were supposed to hit receivable hit deferred revenue, which threw our books off completely, about $20,000. The new system will be based on charge codes. Everything is built in the back end. So if it's for senior yoga, we know the charge code, the journal's built in the back end. We're not manually entering any revenue line. It's all set there for us, so it removes a lot of room for error. The same with utility billing. The cashiering will be put in by the charge codes. It'll generate the funds for them to go right live to their revenue accounts. It'll be live fund balances. Revenue expenses roll up at any given moment. So there's no closing entries that have to be done at the end of the month, end of the year. We can go on at any moment at that pinpoint time as to what we've spent so far to see what our fund balance is. Capital projects are set up now on a fiscal basis, so we are able to review the expenses and revenues much easier, which is going to allow us to look at to what projects are at completion at this point so we can start closing them out. I do have a fund balance report, and you'll see some of them have a surplus, some of them have a deficit. That surplus will go back into those operating funds. The deficit we'll need to evaluate at budget time to see where we're going to pull it in so we can get those off the books and closed out. The project accounting module for the escrow accounts. This is going to give each individual escrow account a accounting number that's outside of our financial software. So this is going to eliminate the T accounts completely and allow all the activity to run through the B funds, but the actual single account will track all activity for each individual escrow account. So when we go into our accounts payable, we'll just put the project account number in and it automatically tracks it in our project accounting module. It'll alert us when the budget is low or overspent so we can reach out to the applicants and ask for more money. And for the auditors, it'll be great too. They'll be able to see we have the funds for it and we can allocate exactly what each one is. So again, the liability is off of the town, back onto the applicants. And last but not least, our budget module. Again, I was beyond surprised that no one in the town had access to any of the finance software. So no one could check their budgets anytime. They don't know what their expenses were. Everyone will have access to view. Some will be view only, obviously, but they'll have access to all their own accounts. They can see where their expenses are in real time, where their revenues are at all times. When it comes to actual budget time, they will have the capability to put the request right into the system. So it will be a departmental level request, and then we have it locked that they can't go past there, and then it moves to tentative, approved, so on and so forth. We can try to eliminate spreadsheets, try to eliminate all the data entry and the small transposition of numbers when you get so many numbers like that. And the new software, like I said earlier, we're moving towards a more paperless environment. So we all have scanners. Every voucher will be scanned in. Any backup will be scanned in with it. So when the auditors are on site, it can be view-only access. If we need to go in and get a copy of a check, we can click on the vendor, the check, and it's right there in front of us. Okay, so where we stand on the 2023 audit so far. The procurement policy and purchasing, there were major issues with the auditors. They found multiple invoices that had no official letterhead on them, so they were uncomfortable with who the bill was actually being paid to. It just was not sufficient. There was an actual bill of sale on loose leaf paper for a $20,000 vehicle. No quotes, no bids with it. So that will be a major finding on the 2023 audit. It's a New York State mandate that there's some sort of annual salary form that states what every employee is at every year. As of the beginning of 24, we were not in compliance with Dutchess County, and it was position names, dollar amounts, all the sorts. But the auditors said there's no salary forms, which then led them to find there's people who are being paid on unapproved salaries from the board. The other thing was the GASB 84 implementation, which we spoke about. That's the trust and agency accounts. We're working towards, obviously with the project accounting, we'll be eliminating all trust and agency. With the new payroll software and accounts payable, we've eliminated them already. The bank reconciliations, we're going through the audits as quickly as we can. We worked on the payroll one. We're trying to get as many outstanding items. But there is a new module in our software that's an actual bank rec system, which will import all of the bank transactions against what's in our GL. So it will help to eliminate some time to make them a little bit cleaner and faster for us. The ban finding that they're going to have on the 2023 audit, there's $1 million ban out for Wildwood Sewer that the town has been paying interest on. The auditors are just going to suggest that we move forward with the bond and move forward with the projects to stop paying the interest on a ban that's just sitting out there. There was no documented review of payroll by anyone other than the payroll person in 2023, so that's going to come up on the audit as well. There was no supervisor sign-off on payroll. In our new system, they'll see the individual approval by Taryn, approval by myself, and we have the supervisor signing off on check registers, direct deposit registers, and for accounts payable, the disbursement registers as well, so we have the triple checks and balances there. There are outstanding due to, due froms. In the due to, due from accounts, you're really supposed to be reconciling within 12 months. They've been outstanding for some time. When I first came in, I was able to get through some of them, but obviously that'll take a deeper dive. Probably second quarter we'll be able to go a little bit further, and we'll look at our cash analysis to see where we are and if we can pay those funds back in between the funds. The last thing was the sexual harassment training. That's one of their findings. They said that all seasonal and elected officials need to be taking that, and currently they were not. Taryn is on top of everyone for all the training currently. She is very aggressive, and she will make sure that you all take your training, so we don't have to worry about that moving forward either. Okay, so we've obviously had quite a few things to get through. We needed to close out 22, we got through the mess of 2023, and we're able to focus now moving forward on 24. In the next few slides, I'll show the fund balance. You can see each of them are growing healthily, each individual year. We put money back into each fund balance. The only one that really stood out to me was our lighting districts. They are at a steady decrease since 2021. Something at budget time that's going to have to be reevaluated. We may have to put a little more money in. I know you have approved different streetlight projects. It could just be that we haven't upped the budget accordingly for those, but at some point, rather than continuously taking from fund balance, we might want to raise the budget slightly so that we can cover those expenses. We are going to be looking at the capital projects. Obviously, we're to the point now where we can, if the project is closed out, we're going to go ahead and move those surpluses to the funds, and then at budget time again, try to look so we can get them closed out. If there's any deficit, let's just get it budgeted for and get it off of our books. We have definitely diversified our investments, making the town some passive income, which has been great. We're currently with NICLAS. We've moved accounts to TD with much higher interest-bearing accounts. Our one CD, in about 3 months, we've made $128,000 in interest.
Thank you.
And we only budgeted $158,000. So just in those 3 months on our CD alone, that doesn't include any of our operating accounts at all. We've almost hit that budgeted dollar amount. I do have reports here for the year-to-date budget. You'll see all of them are pretty much in the green. We're about spot on where we should be. The only fund that's going to be alarming is your B fund. It shows that it's in a deficit right now, but the majority of your revenue in your B fund is coming from sales tax, which we have not received in full yet. You've also have a couple ARPA purchases in the B fund that have not been reimbursed from that account. We were waiting to go live with the new software to do an actual budget transfer, as we should, from the liability into the operating fund. And you do have some board-approved purchases that were to come out of B fund, so it's not a surprise that those might be slightly in the red right now. And some of your water and sewers you will see might be in the negative as well. That's only because Q2 of your revenue has not been posted as of yet. The billings were just sent out, so we have to post them into the new software system. So you've incurred 2 quarters worth of expenses, but you only have 1 quarter worth of revenues so far. I'm also going to be giving you a fund balance report. That's for ending 2023. It doesn't have anything to do with 24 yet, just ending 2023. And it's for each individual water district, sewer district, and all the capital projects, as well as your major operating funds. If you have any questions, I'm always available, but I would be remiss if I did not thank my office for the incredible work and my team that they have done, because I would not have been able to do all this without them. They don't always love my answer when they're like, well, we're not sure why it's wrong. And I'm like, well, we have to figure it out and fix it before we can move forward. So sometimes it took us into a much deeper rabbit hole, but it got us where we are now. So we're making progress. And now moving forward, we can make quarterly reports to the board to let you know where we stand on everything.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh,
Just the graphs quickly, you can see each of the individual funds. We've been growing fund balance from 21 all the way through. Lighting is the only one that's going the opposite direction. Nothing significant, a couple $1,000s, but definitely something we need to watch. Water did have in '22, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I did sit with Leanne, the receiver of taxes, and we did a full analysis on the rates to make sure we're covering all costs across the board, all debt and all operating costs. And that's all I have.
Are you able to send that report to us? Or?
Yeah, I have them all right here.
Okay.
But I'm gonna, yeah, I can send them out as well.
So just a question, with respect to instituting a PO process, that would require an adoption of an amended procurement policy, is that correct?
No.
No.
It would not.
Okay.
It's your current procurement policy, we're just have an actual purchase order form now.
Okay.
Versus the voucher that was previously being used.
Is there anything in the current procurement policy that you feel needs to be addressed or amended?
I do not.
Okay. And as of right now, purchases over $1,000 require town supervisor approval, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do department heads have the ability to spend over $500, between $500 and $1,000?
They do.
Okay. All right. And were the withholding and pension discrepancies on paychecks, or was that on internal staff?
It's a mix of both. Internal staff set up paychecks, so unfortunately, it's sort of both. When it comes to the retirement, there were errors on the reports when they submitted them, so they absolutely knew something was wrong. I mean, it gives you an immediate error saying that it's improper withholdings right away when you submit that report. One of the first ones I sat with them with, I was like, whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. They were like, no, no, it's okay, these are always here. I was like, no. So it takes a little time to go through.
Exactly.
But it's a little mix of both for those.
Okay, so the New York State pension reports are the responsibility of internal staff to submit?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for going into the rabbit hole and coming out in one piece, and your team. This is information we needed to know, and thank you for sharing. And I think going forward, I think the light will be a lot brighter. So thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Just thank you for your work. We know what you went through because we fought this for the last 4 years. So I get it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I actually have some questions for you.
Yeah,
So we're all caught up in the 2023 bills, correct?
correct.
Nothing outstanding?
Nothing outstanding.
And do we expect that our fund balances in 2023 will be better than 2022?
They were all at an increase. Yeah.
That's great.
Everything except for lighting fund, which we have to look into see as
Because we
to
are
why.
seeing additional revenue in the B fund based on sales tax revenue,
Correct.
correct? So one of the things we did in the planning process is we were very conservative on the revenue we expected to receive because we get 9% of what the county
Right.
offers up. From an A fund perspective, mortgage tax, which is the biggest thing, plus taxes we get from the residents, how are we doing in that fund?
Mortgage tax is actually up and continuously staying up. We haven't dropped yet. We just got another report in for the previous month. It's not dropped.
So I saw it was $57,000, which I was pleasantly surprised considering I think we booked about $30,000 per
Yeah.
month
We
for
celebrate
the
every
plan.
month.
It's consistent. It is not slowing down at all.
Yeah. Which is also a great trend for the housing market here in the town of Wappinger. So people are definitely buying.
Just be careful. We've been through this before where we celebrated and the bottom fell out. So we have to understand that, again, I believe that we are headed towards something that we've seen before. We have overvalued homes, we have interest rates that are through the roof, and we have folks that are getting into these homes. And we saw this once before where the values dropped and people were upside down, and we had a real challenge. So,
I definitely feel come budget time, we should still stay on the conservative side because it
Absolutely.
is so unknown right now. But at least right now, we can guarantee this money is going back into the fund balance as that cushion, God forbid, we.
And that's why I made the note of celebrating, because this town board was so conservative in their budgeting and their planning that this is all on top of that. So we do anticipate as we go into 2025 budgeting to stay conservative with those numbers.
Well, again, I think as Councilman Beal said, we wanted to be somewhat on the conservative side because we didn't know what was going to happen in economic times. I mean, housing was going up dramatically, interest rates started to rise, so again, you want to be a little more cautious, so again, you don't have to raise taxes, you stay at the tax cap or slightly below, and that was our intention when we put the budget together. A couple more questions for you. So from a balance sheet perspective, we should have seen some things come off the balance sheet 24 and 25, so our debt should be reduced. Are you seeing that?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Great.
There was debt reduced in '23 and '24 as well.
Okay. Are there any areas that we should be concerned with? Anything that you're noticing, any spending, departments, things like that, that you want to tell us later time or tonight that we should be taking a look at? Because I got to imagine we're over in a number of areas, and typically what happens is in September, October, somebody comes up and says, listen, I need to transfer $50,000, $100,000. So I want to make sure we avoid that.
Yeah, the biggest area is personnel. The only thing that's budgeted in those lines is 35 hours, and those employees work over 35 hours.
Okay.
There's no comp time lines that they think are there, or additional salary lines that used to be there. They're not there, and that dollar amount is not there. So that would be the only thing. Joey has not authorized any overtime, but again, if the department head allows them to work those hours, I can't refuse to pay them. That's the department head approving those hours.
I understand. So you're going to bring that to our attention, the department head's going to bring it to your attention, and you're going to ask to transfer money at some point in time so we can...
Or they can come in and explain to us the problem.
They will be coming in
Yeah,
and explaining
I would like to understand
It was
why.
brought up in a department head meeting,
Yes.
and they were told that it is not in the budget, the money is not in the budget,
Okay.
and they had said, well, we go to the board to get more money.
Right, they need to
That's what
come
I
in
was
and
told.
explain to us why they are over,
From our
from a
first week.
good business perspective.
From our first week in office, again, to remind folks, we instituted the time clocks because not everyone was clocking in and out. And we did cut overtime excessively, drastically. We do still have some department heads that are authorizing overtime for different things that do pop up around town, and we understand that. But again, as we've expressed in several department head meetings now, it's not budgeted, and we will not be moving forward with this style of
No, I want to know
management moving forward.
justification, what
Absolutely.
they're, and the sooner the better.
And I do believe, one thing was brought to my office once, well, in the summertime, they've always worked these hours before. I said, well, do you have the justification for the work for them to do it? No, it was just more convenient.
And that's why we stopped.
And I
That's
said,
not good business
unfortunately,
practices.
that's not-
And that's why we're not
I
doing
don't
it.
understand how somebody can say that.
Right.
Because again, it is not good business practice.
And let me be perfectly clear, again, our employees do tremendous work. We have amazing department heads that are on the ball. We have tremendous employees that are dedicated to making sure that our town runs as smoothly as possible. But throughout this process, we have had to institute audit and control procedures, as Jessica has outlined here tonight. So we are changing the philosophy of this local government to have that control again and to be accountable once again. So yes, we are ever working on improving.
So the other thing too is, when Councilman Bill brought this up before, we used ARPA money to pay for the new software and the rest of the town board as well, which I think has really helped you dramatically.
Huge.
Yes.
Because we were in the, I don't know what century we were in, but we certainly weren't in the 21st
You're
century.
going to have
so-
more than one window pulled up.
So, last, I just want to thank you. I know all the hard work and effort you put into this. Being in the financial area myself, I know that you went through a lot of stress and I'm sure and everything else, trying to get the books caught up, working with the auditors to make sure that we are caught up. So outstanding job. And again, just want to thank you for your hard work and effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Very much.
Let me just say one thing. So, and I've said this before, a department head doesn't have the authority to authorize an expense that's not in their budget.
Correct.
That's the bottom line. And I've had this debate before over the years, and I understand that sometimes exceptions may need to be made in emergency situations. However, I'm unclear on how a department head is authorizing overtime when it's not appropriated. So that cannot happen. If that is something that needs to happen, we need to act on funding that overtime. They can't just arbitrarily authorize overtime that's not funded.
Right.
I mean, that's
I agree.
cut and dry. If it's an emergency, that's one thing, but there really shouldn't be a situation where they're, well, we're just going to continue to do this because it's the way we've always done it.
Totally agree. Totally.
In past years, I have lobbied to build contingencies into those lines, whether they be called comp time or overtime or whatever. other administrations chose to take those lines out. You'll see the history if you look back over the years. I do believe moving forward, we need to proactively include funding in a separate line for the purposes of overtime. One of the reasons why it was not included in previous years is during contract negotiations. It was not seen as a good strategy to include buffers within appropriated lines during contract negotiations. So I understand that approach, but we still can't have folks working and not having the funding in their department. So what is the calendar for budget preparation this year? I know at the county, we've already started. We've had to submit our department budgets already. So where do we stand in this?
So the comptroller and I will be meeting next week to start our process. As I've explained to a number of you folks and to the comptroller, we plan on drastically changing this budget. You know, with the new software, this is a great opportunity to go away from what we've done in the past. So we will be starting to meet on the overall vision of the budget starting next week, and we will be sending out emails to each department head to start meeting at the end of July, beginning of August, and continuing the process from there. We are moving the timeline up because we want to make sure that we are as robust and as thorough as possible while we're meeting with employees.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
So one of the good things that the software does is it gives you real-time information. We've never had that in the past. We've worked off Excel spreadsheets, and quite honestly, they've never been updated. So it's hard to do any kind of analysis with things that are 2, 3, 4 months, behind schedule. That doesn't even go into account all the, things you brought up, the audit found too, that also didn't help us. So again, thank you very much. And unfortunately, as Bill said, policy in the past has always kind of been spend to your budget, as an example, overtime, et cetera, and I'll come see you in September, October. Again, that policy has to end, and we do need to build some level of contingency here, because again, we don't want people to come back.
Like, there's not even an overtime line in your budget.
No.
There's not even an overtime line there at all.
Could you supply us with the departments that are over?
You're also going to see.
I'm going to give you everything right here. So you'll see if they're over a 50% mark on a salary line, it's because they're giving over the 35 hours.
And they stand out. So.
Okay.
Yeah, because I would like to have them come in and explain to us the justification of that. This is not their money, it's our money, it's the neighbors, it's our constituents, it's everybody that lives here. We don't make anything, we don't sell anything.
So for any new purchases, we had to do fund balance transfers. You have that all balanced out?
Yeah, so essentially a fund balance, the way it actually works, you don't actually hit the fund balance in the moment. You hit the expense line where it's supposed to be allocated to, so that we can see where things are charged correctly. And then at the end of the year, as long as I have those minutes and the resolutions to approve to take that from fund balance, that's all the auditors are looking for, essentially. So
they're not looking for a real-time transfer?
No.
Okay.
You don't hit fund balance until the end of the year. It needs to hit the appropriate allocated line so that we can see where it is, especially because a lot of them are fixed assets that we're purchasing, so they need to be put in the correct account so we can depreciate accordingly.
So when you provide your fund balances, do you take that into account?
Well, yes. With the new software, it will be into account because it's already deducted from it. That's
But also
correct.
don't forget too, Councilman, that something that wasn't done too commonly in the past was looking at how much money was still sitting in the current budget before pulling from fund balance.
Right.
So, for example, there might be in parks X amount of dollars still left over. Rather than hitting B fund balance, we can do an inter-fund transfer within that department in the real-time year.
Correct.
We had a number of departments like buildings and grounds that had a lot of money left over at the end of the year.
Yes.
And that's not a good
It
thing.
was just, it was different philosophies, really. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to be following the best practices under GASB and under accounting standards. So there were times, however, when mid-year money was taken from fund balance so that we didn't drain the appropriations that were still in those budget lines. So again, you're going to see different philosophies in play over different administrations. I've been here for many of them. There are rights and wrongs, but at the end of the day, we just want to be sure we're following the best practices of 2024 and moving forward, because there have been, as you know, there have been accounting practice changes over the last 10 years.
Yes.
That have really changed a lot.
Yeah.
So some of these legacy things we've done, I'm not going to say they're wrong, because at the time they might have been right, Joe? I mean, we did things back then that GASB changed 8 years ago, whatever it was, and now we have to comply with those accounting standards. So I appreciate you bringing us to where we need to be for today moving forward, and I'm happy that we still have money.
Yes. Yes. At the end of the day, the town is in good financial shape.
Absolutely. Very good financial
Yes.
standing.
And again, Jessica, I'd like to thank you for dealing with me. But from day one, folks, Jessica and I have been a team, and uncovering what was going on before and constantly tackling new projects. And I'm forever grateful to your team for running with my ideas and for getting across the finish line, executing a massive software project which you built from scratch. Again, I'd like to thank my colleagues on the town board for supporting that software and for supporting the rebuild of the comptroller's office as well, because of our investment, the town is now in solid financial shape and running very smoothly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, our second and last discussion item for the night is a town IT infrastructure update by our IT consultant, Craig Roberts. I believe Councilman Beal wanted this, so Councilman Beal, please take the lead.
Craig, sorry I didn't reach out to you ahead of time. So basically what this was in the wake of the city of Newburgh's cyber attack, I guess. I don't know if it's been officially called that, but they had a situation where they were unable to process payments. They were unable to function certain departments for a period of 5 business days, which really was a challenge for them because they were trying to take tax payments and things like that. There was also a question with respect to people's personal information that might have been compromised. So I thought it would be appropriate perhaps to have you come before the town and just explain where we stand with respect to our systems. Is there anything that we need to be doing that we're not doing, and basically give us your perspective on where we stand.
Yeah, so it's my understanding, I don't know the details of the attack, but from what I have read, I think it was a ransomware attack.
That's what it sounded like, yeah.
Yes, and there was some question of whether or not they were going to have to end up paying the ransom, which I don't think they did, but
So my understanding is the mayor was, his response was the insurance company will handle that. So they have cybersecurity insurance from what I understand, and it was going to be handled by the insurance company, which who knows, they may end up, the insurance company may end up paying. But where do we stand with respect to if something like that, could that affect us?
all right, so the majority of threats like that, like the ones that affected City of Newburgh, originate from email scams and social engineering, right? Basically tricking users into clicking on email attachments or links. And that is going to get worse because AI, right? AI is going to start being used by the bad guys. It already is. It's also going to be used by the good guys, right? So we have this whole big grand AI battle that we're going to be going into. But not long after the supervisor took office this year, it didn't take long before your staff members were getting emails from Joseph D. Cavaccini.
Yes.
Right? But they weren't from...
Right, I got one.
Yeah, right? So it didn't take long for that to happen, right? It doesn't, it's really easy for attackers to just go to your website, see who the new administration's, new people are. Doesn't take them much time to figure out email format, first initial, last name. It's just like I can handwrite a letter right now. I can handwrite it and sign Joseph D. Cavaccini at the bottom, put it in an envelope and mail it to my mom, who's a town of Wappinger resident, and she wouldn't know it's not coming from him.
Right.
Right? Unless and you can't stop me from doing it.
Right.
No.
Just like you can't stop somebody from opening a Gmail account, right? And just putting Joseph D. Cavaccini as his name, and it comes from a Gmail account to the Town of Wappingers account. So the point that I'm getting at is there's so many ways that these attackers, they come up with all these methods to trick people, right? And that's why Tom Barr and I and the supervisor discussed it, and we felt that it was really imperative that we kicked off a security awareness training campaign for, all of the town employees. And this is something I think that a lot of cyber insurance companies are encouraging, but it may start to be mandatory, right? Because look, we have firewalls and, we have endpoint security agents, and we're patching all the software, and I'm looking at logs and I'm analyzing potential threats. A lot of them are false positives, but at the end of the day, if we get one user that is deceived and they click on a link with malicious code in it that's not known or a zero-day threat, then that's where your biggest risk is. So that's why we started the security awareness training campaign, and we kicked it off a couple months ago. Our first campaign, believe it or not, we only had 6% of the users that fell for it, which turned out to be only 4 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not a lot, and I was actually really pleased with that. However, it only takes 1, right? So we want that to be 0. Like, as low as it is, I still want it to be 0. So the plan is, we did it. That was just a generic, see where we're at type of campaign, and we're going to make them trickier, and they're going to change, and they're going to be random, and they're going to.
I was just going to ask you that. Do it randomly.
Oh no, it's going to be random, and it's going to be tricky, and we're going to make them hard. And the idea is, my concern. I don't ever want anybody to feel embarrassed or afraid to come to me or you and say, I clicked on something that I shouldn't have, right? I encourage people, I don't want to punish people for being honest and saying, I clicked on something, because that affects the ability for us to respond, right? If I don't know for 2 weeks and something is silently, happening in the background, it's too late. So my idea is not to scare people. I really just want people to be educated, and I have a relationship with the majority of people here. They know me. A lot of them will send me text messages. Is this email okay? And that's fine. Like, I don't mind it. I'd rather people be skeptical. I want people to learn. But anyway, going back to the campaign, we did a See Where We're At campaign. 6% clicked. I want to get it to 0. So we followed that up with a training video, right? It was like an 11-minute training video. There's 61% have completed the training video, 30-something% have not. I have a list of the users that didn't do it yet. I know a couple of you have multiple jobs, and you may have something like this in place at those other jobs as well. I understand that. That's not going to stop me and Tom from, doing the campaign here. So what I really, really am focusing on this year is just strengthening the last line of defense that any company has, and that's the users, and keeping them educated, right?
So that was the social engineering red flags training?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one.
I think that's so positive, because this will also apply to their personal use.
Yes.
People don't realize how easy it is to get scammed at the bank. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So if you do go to these classes, you have questions, come forward. Let us know. We'll find out from Craig if we don't have the answer.
Yeah.
Residents, come, because we don't want to see this happen to you.
No.
They will tie up your bank accounts. They will do and it's very easy. You have to be very, very careful. Am I right or wrong? Your password needs to be very well protected.
Yeah.
Not the cat ran over the caught
Yeah.
the mouse, something like that. You got to really be imaginatory and careful.
I don't think anybody would enter that password.
Well, now
Well, you know what I
Now we know your password. You just told everyone your password.
Macy's.
live
No, but
TV, ladies and
seriously,
gentlemen.
it's very serious. Your medical information, everything. I mean, I was scammed from Vassar Hospital.
Yeah.
They had a breach.
Yeah.
The credit union, they send you the letters. Everybody has seen those.
Yeah, it's not going away.
No.
Unfortunately, the tricks are going to get trickier. And as people learn and get better, they're going to find ways to, be even trickier than that.
You have to be vigilant, yeah.
But, another important point to keep in mind is, we can take care of our side of the street, right? But there's other companies out there that can get hacked. And there was actually, I spoke with this person today, one of the employees here, and I really wish I could state the person's name because I'm really proud of this person, but
It's okay, you can say my name, Mike.
this person received an email from a salesperson working with a company that they had a legitimate correspondence with. They're in the process of buying some new devices. And what ended up happening was the salesperson from this other company had a Dropbox account that got hacked. So the employee here received a very legitimate Dropbox email from the salesperson, and there was very little reason for her to not click on it. But she was suspicious, and rightfully so, and that's the kind of thinking that you can't teach, right? Like, most people would have been like, oh, this person must be sending me an updated quote based on what we were talking about earlier. But the way that she thought was, no, this person did not say they were sending me anything, and I'm not going to click on it, and she reached out to me right away. So I started asking questions, and I looked into it, and sure enough, that's what happened. So we can take care of our side of the street, and we can prevent ourselves the best we can from getting hacked and scammed, but we have to keep in mind that anybody you do business with can be a victim. And if they get hacked and they're corresponding with you and you just assume everything is okay, there's a small window of time before they find out they got hacked and they're able to notify you. But that kind of, what I'm trying to say is that's the kind of point I want to get everybody at, is the ability to you can't teach that thinking. You can just, you can do the best you can with education, but it's just something that we have to keep working at and strengthening everybody and educating them, and not necessarily punishing anybody, just come forward, let's talk about it. If you made a mistake, you clicked on something, let me know.
Right.
We'll handle it, but we need to know ASAP. So that's really what my focus has been.
I think that's great, Craig. I have total trust in you. I believe the employees here do also, that you've always been very helpful and you're always available to them. So I commend you, and I think we're in good hands.
Thank you.
And if anybody hears anything else that could help us all, bring it out. Let us know. Send it.
I do want to point out, Joey and Jessica have been amazing to work with. Jessica has been extremely supportive. I come to her with concerns, I go to Joey with concerns, and they just support me 100%, and that makes my job easier because I can do what I need to do for you guys. So,
Of course.
I mean, taking this after her presentation, I feel, jeez.
Yeah, because I am concerned about the seniors also, because
Yeah.
I just am very concerned.
No, they prey on
They do.
and, they'll come up with better and better tactics, and that's why look for those training videos, and I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do next, but you're going to get some really tricky ones, and if you click on it, it's okay.
Exactly. Your machine's not going to
It's
blow up.
okay. I want the ultimate goal is I want people to learn, because that's how we're going to strengthen our defense, and that's ultimately going to make you safer. That's what we're going to be focusing on. Okay.
So that's on the end user side now. Is there anything on the hardware side or software side that we need that we don't have?
Well, so we actually, thanks to Jessica, we just upgraded your endpoint security agent to include an EDR component. What that is, that stands for endpoint detection response. So you're all familiar with antivirus, right? It's an old term now, but that's more like that's like the basic protection that you can put on the endpoints. And the way it works is there's a database of known threats, and that's like your first line of defense. If it's in this database, it knows, oh, this is bad, and it blocks you. Problem is, there's a lot of threats out there that are not known, and they're not in that database. So you need something that is doing a little extra, and that's where the EDR comes in. What that does is that analyzes files and things by behavior, and then it sends me red flags saying, hey, this person ended up on this website, and this happened, and this is kind of fishy, you need to look into it. Most of the time, it will, block something immediately, but I get the alert. I'm able to investigate it. I can see if it's trying to spread to another computer. If it tries to do that, I can isolate where it came in, the entry point. If it spreads really quick, I can isolate multiple computers. I can pull together a report to give to forensics if we ever have to involve cyber security insurance. So that was a huge addition to our baseline security that we're running on the endpoints. And Jessica was really supportive with it. When we sat down and discussed it, she was like, absolutely, we need to do this, and we did it. And it's already rolled out, and it's working good. I've only gotten false positives so far, but I'm actually grateful for that. So.
Do we converse with the county with what they have as far as cybersecurity?
I don't really converse with the county much, no. I don't know anybody there.
We are doing almost the same thing.
But maybe just to stay parallel with them?
I would love to speak with the city of Newburgh.
I think that would be a great idea.
I would love to know what happened.
Sure.
And I understand that in some cases that's they don't want to disclose certain things, maybe for security reasons, maybe because they need to save face. I don't know what the reasons are, but we could learn from an attack like that.
Right, it would be a win-win for everybody.
I wish there was a way that I could collaborate with other IT professionals in other places, and we can compare notes and we can just kind of together get better. But I don't really have any contacts at the county.
Well, we'll find some for you.
If you want to put me in contact with someone,
definitely
I
will
will
find.
welcome that. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, but you're going to find that those folks are not going to, they're not the, I deal with the IT folks at the county, and everything is really on a, very compartmentalized, security-driven. They may talk to you with respect to ensuring that we have every option available. I think our town website is hosted by the county still, correct? So from that angle, that's, we have a point of contact. I don't know who is our point of contact at the
Is that website, it's Matthew McNamara.
But I think it would be good to keep the conversation open.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Definitely keep contact with them.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, David Kashmir is the cybersecurity manager for Dutchess County. I can put you in contact with him. Obviously, the county is very cognizant of the threats as well, right? That's why I wanted you to come in, because I think our town is more proactive than most when it comes to cybersecurity and protecting what we have here. But there's always room for improvement in some way, especially with an evolving AI landscape. I will finish with this. As Councilwoman Bettina mentioned, the seniors, that's at the front of my mind also. I know a senior citizen who was brainwashed by a hacker to go to the bank and take a considerable amount of money out and almost put it in the mail and sent it somewhere because they were basically socially engineered to do that. And it's scary that there are folks that do that. It's also scary to me that the bank allowed that amount of money to be taken out in cash without questioning that transaction. But there are folks out there that are preyed upon. And I think senior citizens could benefit from a presentation, in the senior center perhaps.
Training.
On how to prevent that from happening.
So we do that once a year through the sheriff's office, and then they also come to our senior expo. And something that we do in the senior center is whenever, it's that shame-free zone kind of thing, whenever something happens to one of them, they tell. They'll get up and they'll tell the story. Hey, I got a phone call from somebody that, kept telling me my granddaughter was in the hospital and this kind of thing. So we are big with sharing and learning on the senior scams because they are the first people that they go for, always.
It'd be interesting to know what our neighbors do too, what Fishkill does, what the town of Fishkill does, what Beacon does, maybe there's some kind of network we can get going.
Yeah, well, every year I work on improving something, and Jessica and I, in Q3 at some point, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk IT budgets and all the things.
I'd like to be part of that.
Yeah, no,
Keep
we're going
me
to talk
informed.
about, we're going to, because I never really had that in prior years, but Jessica, we've already talked about it, she's on board, and every
Good.
year I want to just keep getting
Better.
yeah, and just keep adding to, building on your security, because it won't end.
No.
We just got to keep strengthening it, so,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you, Craig.
Very good. Thank you,
Best
Craig.
things,
Appreciate it.
Craig.
No, thank you, Craig.
We're good.
Thank you. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the consent resolutions. First resolution is Resolution 2024-151, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to apply for and receive funding under the 2024 New York State DEC Water Quality Improvement Project grant program for critical improvements to the Midpoint Park Sewer District. Resolution 2024-154, resolution authorizing the termination of a Town of Wappinger employee. Resolution 2024-156, resolution appointing seasonal laborers. And Resolution 2024-157, correspondence log. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passes. On to our non-consent resolutions. Resolution 2024-150, resolution adopting local law number 2 of 2024, which would amend Chapter 217 zoning of the town code with respect to a variety of definitions. Do I have a motion? For
I thought
discussion?
we actually,
That was for the public hearing, so I didn't know if we wanted to table this.
Yeah, I think we need
Yeah,
to.
so you need a motion, right? Yeah.
Make a motion
I'll
to
make-
table
So you need a
this.
motion, yeah.
I make a motion.
to
I'll second
table
it.
150.
Moved by Councilwoman Bettina, second.
Al?
Second by Councilman Casella. All in favor to table? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The resolution is tabled. Resolution 2024-152, authorizing the retention of special counsel to commence litigation against AT&T, Verizon, and any and all parties to recover the town's damages in combating contamination of soil caused by the degrading lead-clad tables. Do I have a motion for discussion? Moved by
Make a
Councilman
motion for
Phillips.
discussion.
Second by Councilman Casella for discussion. Folks, what we have seen throughout the town and the county and the state is a number of these lead-coated communications lines that were put in the past by Verizon, AT&T, New York Telephone, and later abandoned. We had a case in the village of Wappingers Falls at a Temple Park where they found these lead lines underneath the park there. It was all over the news. The governor actually shut down the park until the testing was confirmed. I received a call from our county executive, Sue Serino, in regards to this, encouraging the town of Wappinger to sign on. This would be a class action lawsuit similar to what we've done in the past with the opioid companies, as this town does have lead-clad cables underneath it. It's something that I thought I would bring up to the town board to discuss. There are other towns in the county as well that have joined the county in this lawsuit, such as the town of East Fishkill. So I wanted to have the discussion. The retainer is attached here. There's no cost to the town of Wappinger.
So there's no collection, there's no payment, and they collect 33% of whatever we collect.
Correct.
So no out-of-pocket at all.
Correct. So, and again, it does protect our residents in that sense of, as we continue to find these underground lead cables throughout the town.
Just a point of clarification, that Temple Field or Temple Park, that was unfounded, right?
They eventually found that it was fine, but they
Right.
shut down the park. They
I know, that
they
was-
determined that there was utility lines there, but again, there are some still throughout the town, so. And they
Got it.
still bring that back up every couple of weeks.
I was kind of perplexed by that. The governor got involved and shut the park down, and there was nothing found.
Yes.
Good point.
Seemed kind of knee-jerk to me.
I didn't
but-
want to go down the rabbit hole, but yes.
But what I will say is this, my concern is out-of-pocket expense. If there's no out-of-pocket expense and there's a potential benefit, this is similar to the opioid settlement, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilwoman Bettina. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Thank you, folks. Resolution 2024-153, resolution introducing local law number 3 of 2024, which would amend Chapter 240-5 zoning of the town code with respect to a variety of definitions, Chapter 247-14 alienation restricted matters, 240-79 tattoo parlors, and Resolution 240-81-9 smoke and/or vape shops. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll move it for discussion.
Moved by Councilman Phillips,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Bettina for discussion. Piggybacking on local law number 2, this continues to go through the town code and update a variety of definitions and uses in the town that we've been talking about over the course of this year. So this takes it a step further and talks about things such as smoke and vape shops, which were not defined, as we're starting to see these popping up all over. We can address tiny homes, but I would like to point out that we do have a section of our code on accessory dwelling units as well that we can look at expanding upon. Tattoo parlors, as we've heard, at our last town board meeting. So I wanted to bring this up for discussion, see if the town board was comfortable. Either way, that this would have to be moving forward to our August 19th meeting. So if you want to digest this and come back with some more comments, we can.
Has our town attorney read this at all? Have you seen this?
I have, yeah. Since it was circulated.
Yes. Upon
So you haven't
circulation.
had time to go through it in detail?
Oh, no, you have, right? You have.
So I got it on Wednesday. I think you can move forward with the public hearing. I'm going to have some edits, I know from going through. They're not going to be significant, but as far as getting the gist of the public comment and getting it over to the county, I do think it's a good idea because then they'll be able to take a look at local law. It'll be helpful for the review of local law number 2. So I'm good for getting it out there for the public hearing.
And again, to piggyback on the town clerk's notes, we have 10 days to make these additions and comments and things like that, and then it would be posted publicly for the full 30 days as well. So,
It's going to get referred to the planning board for a report as well.
Yes.
So I don't see it getting adopted on the 19th. It is possible if the planning board gets to it, if the county gets to it, by that time. There is a sufficient amount of time between today and the August 19th date because it's obviously the 8th of July.
So this is the same process as Resolution 150 we just did?
Yeah.
On roll number 2?
The county needs 30 days to review it. The planning board in the past has never commented on these local laws. And any changes that are made will be on your desk 10 days before,
Right.
and that's the requirement. So then you probably, a supermajority will be able to pass them, whether the county approves it or not, within the 30 days. So as long as you get 4 votes out of 5,
Thank
you're
you.
in good shape.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
If we could just have our Director of Municipal Development present for the next meeting when this is discussed, that would be helpful.
Sure. Okay. And in the meantime, looking for a motion to table this to,
I make a
or
motion
actually,
to
no,
table.
we
I'll
would need to,
second
we would need to adopt this. I apologize. This one's different because this is introducing the local law. So this is introducing it. The last one was to accept it. So this would be a motion to introduce it.
I make a motion to introduce this
Thank
to the next meeting.
Thank you, Councilman Bettina. A motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The motion passes. And it will be on for the August 19th Town Board meeting. Resolution 2024-155, resolution awarding contract for Major Daniel Martz Vietnam War Memorial Rehabilitation Project. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella.
Just some questions.
Discussion? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so previously, we did authorize $20,000 at a Parkland Trust for this. This resolution is asking for
$30,000.
$9,980 additional.
Correct.
Is that coming from Parkland Trust also?
Correct.
Okay. And then looking at the conceptual on here and the specifications, so this is going to come off of the parking lot. Where is this in respect to the pickleball courts?
It's just to the left.
It's just to the left. So when you pull into Martz Field, there is a main sidewalk that brings you straight back to the pavilion and to the parking, and to the playground, I should say. So this will bring you right up from the parking area into a circular landscaped plaza with, similar to Palmetier Park, landscaped pavered walls that can be, for sitting areas as well. The monument will be located directly in front of the flagpole that was installed there last year.
Yes.
This will be brick pavers going directly from the parking lot to this circular pavered patio, as well as adding a number of trees and things like that.
And then where would the monument be placed? I just wish we had a better conceptual. This conceptual,
Drawing. So that would be right here. So that's where the flagpole is?
so
It
the
would be put
flagpole and
directly-
the monument is right there?
Correct.
All right, and then this is just an open circle?
This is going to be the paver patio all through here. This is the landscaped area, the brick wall that will be on each side, kind of half mooning it. The pavers will run from the parking lot all the way through.
And then this becomes what?
That's all existing asphalt.
Okay, all right. And is there a timeline for this work?
If we approve it, Mr. Aguado is ready to start within 2 weeks.
And it's not going to obstruct any of the use that's going on at the park right now?
Correct. Actually, the town had previously cleared out areas, such as, trees and things like that to prepare for this area. And as summer camp is going on, we can have them go right around it. There's plenty of grass space through there that they can move through there.
And what's going to happen to the previous area where the Martz?
That's currently about 5 feet wide off of the parking area.
Yeah.
We would just disassemble that, take those pavers away. The flagpole can stay out in the outfield of the ball field, but the monument would be obviously relocated. It was not a substantial monument site to begin with.
Yeah.
So it would just basically be grass through there.
Okay. All right, yeah, I support this, thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record as well, we received 3 quotes in total, Guado Landscaping being the cheapest at $29,980. We received quotes also from Freer Landscaping and Neve Landscaping as well. So that's just for the record.
Thank you.
And by your notes, it was $6,000 less than Building and Ground said it would in-house?
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
So say that again, it's,
According to the
$6,000
resolution, I had included this from previous discussions. It's $6,000 cheaper than what the Buildings and Grounds Department had previously estimated doing that in-house as well.
okay.
Okay. And also, I noted that, too, for the procurement policy, that this did not need to go out for competitive bidding.
Jessica was keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, well, we've been following the procurement
She was
policy.
taking notes on you.
We've been
We
following
have the
it.
proper form.
Yes. All right, so
I make a motion to approve.
I'll
moved by
second.
Councilwoman Bettina, second by Councilman Casella. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It
None.
is
Thank you very
worth
much.
repeating that Daniel Martz was the first from Dutchess County to die in South Vietnam.
Correct.
I believe it was South Vietnam he died.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. So, we should repeat that anytime we reference this park. It's not just a name. As Grace mentioned, this is a person with a face that made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. And Major Martz, again, yes, the first Dutchess County resident to die in Vietnam. He lived in the Oakwood Knolls section of our town. He's buried at the Wappingers Falls Rural Cemetery. His children attended our schools. He grew up in this area himself. So yes, it's a very fitting thing, and thank you again to my colleagues on the town board for supporting this.
I find it very interesting and beyond coincidental that we have the first from the county to die in that war on one side of town and the first to die in the War on Terror on the other side of town, both from the town of Wappinger.
Correct. Yes, sir. With that, items for special consideration and new business. First Ward, Councilman Beal.
Well, it seems like every single time we have a meeting, I reference another catastrophe that's happened in our town, but we had a serious motorcycle accident on Route 9 again on the 4th of July with an unresponsive individual who is still alive today because of our first responders who happened to be there when it happened. The Town of East Fishkill medic unit was sitting at the traffic light at the intersection of 9 and Old Hopewell when this individual who was clocked at 90 miles per hour out of Fishkill decided to try to squeeze between two vehicles. He made it between the vehicles, but then hit the asphalt. So the paramedic and the EMT that witnessed this were the first, obviously the first responders on the scene. I was there in 3 minutes. The patient was already packaged and in the ambulance. They were off scene in 5 minutes to the trauma center. So you can't ask for much more than that. But again, we're asked to look twice for motorcycles all the time, but the motorcyclists also have a responsibility, right? And please drive safely because you're putting others at risk when you're not. And I just, again, want to go on record thanking our first responders for their quick response. And in this case, it was East Fishkill's medic that was there. And they ended up backfilling East Fishkill with another unit. But, it was the best possible outcome. Hopefully this individual pulls through. I wish everybody a safe summer. We're going to take a little break, obviously, right, till the next meeting, which is in August. What is it, August 17th or something?
19th.
Or 19th. But be safe out there, and if we have a need to convene, I'm sure, we say this every year, if we need to convene, we will convene. Because we are not, part-time. We do this, and I can honestly say that each person that sits up here spends a heck of a lot more time doing town business than meets the eye. Every single day, I think there's some sort of collaboration going on between the supervisor and those that work here and the respective town board representative, all in the best interest of the residents of the town. So I thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
I want to commend, I believe, Bill, on the Hudson River, there was an incident with,
Yes.
No, I was out there, but I wasn't on that call. So that call
right?
goes worth mentioning. That was a capsized boat on the
Yes.
Hudson River where
Yes.
Chelsea and New Hamburg and Newburgh and I think Middle Hope
All came together.
all actually had to get those 4 individuals and a dog, I think.
Right, there was 2 dogs.
Two dogs out of the river, and they were able to get those
commend
people
them.
to tour to the shore, I should say.
Exactly.
I was out there doing training later on. I wasn't. The picture I put up was me later on, not at that. But we all train on the river. That happened to be a situation that was before we were out there doing our training.
But I have to commend all the forces that came together that saved these people. I just want to make sure people are safe this summer when you're on the river, if you're swimming. With this heat wave we're having, check on your neighbors, check on your kids, watch the kids in the swimming pool, designate somebody to watch the children. Watch the animals. If you see an animal that's out, doesn't have water, doesn't have a way to get away from this wicked weather we're having. I mean, I get it, it's the summer, but you call somebody, call us, call me, just call so everybody is safe. you know, in a couple months, we'll be complaining about the snow that's going to be flying.
Don't
So
remind us of that.
just want everybody to say, have a good summer. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
I have to say, every time we get together, Bill gives me the cringes. He knows I'm an avid motorcyclist with my wife. We ride as often as we can, and the number of motorcycle accidents are very, very, very disconcerting. Drive safe, enjoy
Yeah.
the weather. We have a beautiful area to ride in, so just do it safely and have a safe summer.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank our highway department, first of all, for the June 26th. There was a huge storm out there, as most of you know. A lot of trees and things were knocked down. I actually called the highway department at 9:30 at night. They came out and they took a couple of trees that were obstructing roads. So again, I want to thank Mike Sheen and his team. Also want to talk about, we approved a resolution tonight, 151. Again, that was for Midpoint. Again, we continue to try to find money to pay for this project. It's a $10 million project. There's an opportunity for $75 million. We'll probably only get a small piece of that, even though we applied for the full $10 million. So again, those are the kind of things we need to continue to do as a board, and I appreciate the supervisor signing off on that tonight to move forward with that. We also had the summer kickoff on the 25th. I know Chris, Joey, and myself were out there. I was hoping Chris would have got into the dunking machine, but we couldn't get him out there to do it. But it was really good. Again, if we talk about Martz Field, so this is another project that happened in Martz Field. It also allowed the parents to go ahead and pick up their camp packages, which was a great thing. There was food trucks, there was crafts, again, water dunking. So those are the nice things that we're trying to do in the town, and we want to continue doing things like that throughout the town to support our residents. Again, it's their taxpayer dollars, but again, we're trying to get back to the community. Last thing I'll say is that, as Bill expressed before, if we do need a meeting, August 19th is the next meeting. No problem in convening if we need to. Again, we do have the summer schedule here, but again, if meetings are required, we'll make ourselves available. Thank you.
One more thing.
Thank you. Yes.
I do want to do a shout out to the garden club. The flowers around Town Hall look lovely. They really do. And the new tree looks nice. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, folks, to piggyback off of what Councilman Casella had noted, we had two back-to-back storms come through the town of Wappinger, one on June 26th and the other on June 30th. Both were very fast, very aggressive, high wind speed storms. One toward the northern portion of the town on the 26th, and then the southeastern portion in the Swartoutville, Cedar Hill area on the 30th. We saw a number of trees go down throughout the town. For example, in the storm that we had on the 30th, we had extended power outages. That again, I commend our Town of Wappinger Highway Department crews from going out 30 minutes after that storm ended on a Sunday, and Central Hudson as well. We did have to follow up a few times with Verizon and Altice to pick up those communication lines that were still left hanging around. We had to close down Cedar Hill Road for an extended period of time, not only due to the damage, but because of some of these communication lines that were left hanging around. So my office had to follow up with them. But fortunately, again, there was no lives lost in our town. Other towns were, again, not as lucky. So fortunately, we have a great response time here in the town of Wappinger, and again, we were able to turn this around rather quickly. As our comptroller had noted, our software implementation project is well underway, and we just had a training today on the new time clock system and the payroll end of it for our department heads. So we continue to integrate this software into everyday life here in the town now, and I am just so elated to see this up and running, and I know that our comptroller and her team are as well. Summer camp has started as of July 1st at Martz Field, which I had popped over there just to say hi and see how it was going, and I have to say it was so great to see that park filled with kids and activities and programs. Huge shout out to Jessica Spencer, our new summer camp director, and his team. It was just great to see the kids doing activities and having fun while doing it as well, and coming off of our kickoff to summer party, the first time we ever did something like that, it was just very nice to see a combination of the pickleballers out there and the kids using the park as well. This Saturday, I would like to note, is the Melanie Chianese Foundation Car Show out at Brexel Schletthaus Park. That's going to kick off at 9:30 that morning. That will be a great fundraiser to support Melanie Chianese, who was brutally murdered in this town due to a horrific domestic violence incident that occurred. Her mother, Cheryl, is a brave human being who has taken this loss and really ran with it to help the lives of others all throughout the state of New York, and especially here in our town of Wappinger. Part of what they are fundraising for at this car show is to hopefully build a gazebo out at Schletthaus Park as part of our beautification out there. That would be in memory of not only Melanie, but all domestic violence victims. So if you are around, we encourage you to stop by on Saturday. The next day, out at Schletthaus Park on Sunday, there is a pop-up event hosted by Safe Haven Animal Shelter, which will be a great way to meet local businesses and just another great day to be out in the park. So we encourage you to stop by Safe Haven's small business pop-up on Sunday as well out at Schletthaus. Piggybacking off of what Councilwoman Bettina had said, we might as well say we live in the state of Florida with the heat and the humidity that we've been dealing with for the past couple weeks now. If you or any member of your family ever needs a place to stay 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday, Wappinger Town Hall is always open. If you're a senior, we encourage you to stop by our senior center anyway, but I have made this very clear to anyone who needs it, that you are able to come to Wappinger Town Hall and stay here for as long as you need during business hours as a cooling center. We would be happy to open it for you. And to close things out, I have to say thank you again to my town board colleagues here for your continued support in moving things forward. Not only worked for this town for 13 years, but a lifelong resident. I'm very proud of what we've been undertaking, especially when it comes to grants. We have been very aggressive, now more than ever, in securing grant funding, and I really do want to emphasize that to our residents. We are looking at millions of dollars in potential grant funding to come here to help our residents and to be proactive. I can tell you everyone on this dais does not want to be associated with kick the can down the road syndrome, and we are moving full steam ahead with getting projects done. So I do appreciate that, folks. With that, we do have to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel matters and a pending investigation. So with that, I do ask that we have a motion to enter into executive session.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much, folks. We will be returning to public portion after executive session. Thank you.